All right, hi again, everyone. I'm going to continue on with exploring ideologies here and remind you that we were looking for the effect that ideologies have on the choice to support or oppose using sustainable forms of energy in various states. So we're going to focus in on conservatism and liberalism. And a quick reminder here, conservatism is a governmental system where the existing institutions are maintained, emphasizing free enterprise and minimal government intervention. Liberalism, on the other hand, is a representative government, free speech, abolition of class privilege, and state protection of the individual. So, conservatism wanting to conserve the way things are and not have government requiring things or making things for everyone. Liberalism wanting the government to represent all people equally and individually by enacting things or setting up things that benefit everyone. So I'm going to read the second article here to highlight the ways to identify a conservative or liberal opinion in a reading source. This one's titled Counterpoint: Don't Confuse or Reject the Role of Renewables. And again, it's from the Star Tribune, first week of February 2019. And this one has three authors here. Jessica Hellman is a director at the University of Minnesota's Institute on the Environment. Ellen Anderson is the director of the Energy Transition Lab, and Sabine Engel is the director of International Partnerships. So these three ladies come from the University of Minnesota, and their article goes like this. Last week was a tough one for Minnesotans. Exceptionally cold weather tested our infrastructure and revealed some of our vulnerabilities and strengths. In Cold Snap shows reliable energy sources are critical from February 1st. Isaac Orr, a policy fellow of the Center for the American Experiment, seized on the cold weather to push for a return to coal and a rejection of renewables. So there the authors start to highlight where they may be going with their opinion here in this article. He supported his claim with a confusing mix of statistics that mischaracterize where our energy comes from and how renewables work. Facing an onslaught of climate and economic changes, we need good information about our energy system to keep our citizens warm and safe and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. There's another hint, right? They seem to be advocating for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and probably the fight against climate change. In a cold climate, we need two kinds of energy: electricity and heating. Right? And so the other author touched on that a bit, and we'll discuss that here as we go along. Electricity powers our lights, electronics, and anything that plugs into the wall. In Minnesota, we get that energy from a mix of sources, including coal, nuclear, natural gas, and renewables like wind and hydro. In contrast, heating for most Minnesotans comes from natural gas that is burned in a home furnace, or switches back and forth between the roles played by these two energy types, suggesting that heating your home has something to do with coal plants or wind turbines. For most of us, it doesn't. All right, so he's switching back and forth. He's talking about non-renewable sources in a way that these authors are saying isn't quite accurate. Any worries we had about shortages of natural gas to heat our homes during the cold blast did not have anything to do with power from wind or solar. We have been adding renewables to energy production in Minnesota over the past several years, up to 25% in 2018. And so here, when the authors are talking about that, they're talking about the government and the energy companies kind of in partnership, paying for things or subsidizing things and advocating for things on behalf of people who use energy in the state. These sources generate power when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining, and there are proven strategies for connecting them together to build a reliable electricity system. Germany, for instance, currently has 40% renewable electricity in its grid and plans to go to 80% by 2050. Electric outages there amount to 12 minutes per year, which makes that country's security of supply among the world's highest. Additionally, cold snaps like the polar vortex, again from 2019, are usually quite sunny and breezy, generating power even though the temperature is low. To wit, a solar array connected to a battery recently installed by Conexus Energy generated 147% more power than average on January 30th when it was colder than 20 below at noon. In fact, Conexus's solar and battery storage system was performed so well that during the coldest part of the polar vortex, it provided power to reduce peak demand and helped reduce strain on the electric grid. All right, so these authors are even talking about a private company, Conexus Energy, that's using renewables, solar here in this case, performed better in the cold weather, right? So kind of contradicting the other statement by the other author that renewable sources would be bad here in a cold climate like Minnesota. There's one crossover between electricity and heating in Minnesota. Natural gas can be used in both processes, or suggests a conflict there, but it's not as problematic as he implies. Less than 11% of the natural gas consumed in Minnesota is burned in an electricity power plant. So a very low percentage of natural gas is actually used for electricity here. We use it mostly for heating. And when we rely more on renewables instead of natural gas for electricity production, that leaves more natural gas for home heating use. We also can make both electricity and heat in energy efficient combined heat and power plants, as we do at the University of Minnesota and in downtown St. Paul's Evergreen Energy Plant. Navigating Minnesota through an energy transition to a cleaner, reliable energy system is not easy, and there are many paths to get there. So far, our transition has been going well. Electricity prices are stable and the lights have stayed on. Our leading power company in Minnesota, Xcel Energy, expects to be able to reliably push renewables even further in the coming years. So here they're talking about transitioning and that's been going well, prices are stable, and that a private company is advocating for continuing to increase our the balance of our energy that comes from sustainable sources. Our changing climate will bring more weather extremes, but confusing energy issues is a way to roll back energy gains that will not make us smarter or more resilient when it comes to climate stressors do come. Okay, so again, in comparison to the first article, this article seems to be very liberal in its opinion about how we should be using and supplying renewable sources of energy to all people.